I'm Julie Alexandria.
And I'm Jennifer Mercedes.
Between the two of us, we have over 2 decades of experience working in professional sports.
We're telling the stories of women who are at the top of their game in sports and business.
Welcome
to the locker room.
With nearly a decade of experience as a strength and conditioning coach for Major League Baseball, she made history as the first woman to be hired as a hitting coach by a Major League Baseball team, the New York Yankees. It is our pleasure to introduce and welcome to the conversation, Rachel Balkovec. Thank you so much for being here and talking with us today.
Thank you guys. It's such an honor to be with the first 2 Latina women to have their own show. I'm so excited to be here. So thanks for having me on.
Let's go back. To February 2020. You get hired by the Yankees. What was the interview process like with the Yankees, and how did the conversations you had with that team differ from conversations with Major League Baseball teams in the past?
Well, I like to say that the interview process really started when I was with the Astros. So my current boss, Dylan Lawson, who is the director of hitting for the Yankees now, he was a minor league hitting coach with the Astros. And so really, we just got to know each other there, and he mentored me a lot. He's actually the person who kind of sparked the thought of crossing over to hitting. And so when I was with the Astros, I was always popping into hitting meetings and such. So we had a pre-existing relationship. And so when I went back to school in 2018 after the season with the Astros. And he really guided my track while I was in school. I did my research in eye tracking for hitters, and he was the one who was kind of in my ear about that. And so it was pretty natural that he would want to hire me with the Yankees, but then it was still an extensive process. So I had, I believe, 3 phone interviews before I flew to Tampa and had an interview at our spring training facility, our headquarters in Tampa, with a variety of different front office professionals and other hitting staff, et cetera. So it was pretty extensive, but I did have a really long-standing relationship with my current boss now, with Dylan Lawson. So I think he was convinced, but maybe he had to convince a few other people. So it was still a pretty extensive process. To answer your question fully, though, I think it was more extensive than other interviews I've had in the past, which is really a credit to the Yankees. I think that's what you should do, be very thorough about your process.
Now, Rachel, I had one other question to ask you, but speaking about that interview process, was there an emphasis made on you being a female, a woman?
No. That could be a legal thing, frankly.
Yeah.
But no, there was none of that. And I think, again, and Dylan's a mentor of mine. He's a friend, he's somebody who's been really supportive over the years of me. And so he just said, yeah, there was no question about your gender, because I told them there was there needed to be no question about your gender, because he had seen me work with all kinds of players, and he had seen my demeanor as a coach, as a professional. So there wasn't any questions for him. And I think he really thoroughly conveyed that to the Yankees. So I don't know if there were questions, and if there were questions, they would always be behind my back, not to my face, which is probably pretty smart. So yeah, there was really no question in the interview process. However, I'm sure there were plenty of conversations, which, of course, I like to have a very pragmatic view of that. Yeah, of course, I'm sure there were conversations about my gender. Can she do this? Will the guys respect her? But I think they were probably less than normal, just because of my previous experience in baseball.
Now, how would you describe your hitting philosophy and your coaching philosophy as well?
Yeah, so they're two not separate things. They work together, but definitely separate topics. So there's the technical hitting side of things, which my research that I did, and also just my mentoring that I've received in hitting, is really focused on plate discipline. And so I'm a strength coach. I spent 10 years working with the body, and I understand how mechanics are important. My second master's degree is in human movement or biomechanics. So I could talk all day long about mechanics in the body and swing mechanics. But also, I think what we focus less on, and what we should be kind of, looking at more closely, is plate discipline and what that has to do with success. And so we see this all the time. You could have a phenomenal physical hitter where they are strong, powerful, et cetera, and they just can't hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and then you go, well, how come his swing mechanics are great? Yeah, yeah, his swing mechanics are great, but why can't he hit the ball? Yeah, exactly. Tim Tebow, what a great example. Well, there's also this whole other skill set that hitters have to have, which is plate discipline. And what does that actually mean? So my research was in eye tracking for hitters, and I have a really strong emphasis in that. So my philosophy is to focus quite a bit on that side of things. Swing mechanics are important, but they're, in my opinion, actually a smaller piece of the pie than eye tracking or pitch recognition. So that's heavily where my philosophy lies there. From a coaching standpoint, I am definitely a huge culture is key person. And I think I focus just as much on the culture side of things as I do on the hitting side of things, or strength and conditioning, or whatever whatever realm I'm working in. I'm very huge on what I would like to call the competitive cauldron, which I directly stole from Anson Dorrance at UNC Women's Soccer. So I'll just give him that credit. He wrote a book on this, but basically creating a competitive culture inside of practice. And so we think about practice sometimes gets very mundane and it's the same thing every day. And especially in baseball, it is every day. There's no breaks in season. And so it can get very stale if you're not creating the environment as a coach to really get them to be excited. So one way to do that is competition, because I'm this way, but you cannot, if you put a competition in front of those guys, they can't help themselves. If they're tired, if they don't want to be there, it doesn't matter. You could compete over anything. You could compete over an eating contest and they will lose their minds. So I think just introducing competition into every single day and making sure that's a part of their day to make sure that they come to the field with a goal in mind. And even more so, I'll take a step further, not just competing for themselves, but putting them in teams and making them compete against each other. You would think to yourself, well, of course they compete every day in the game. But in professional baseball specifically, especially at the lower levels, winning doesn't matter as much in minor league baseball. So we do want to win on the field, but whether we win or lose, it doesn't really matter, especially at the lower levels. And so the whole winning, losing thing kind of fades out into the background. And whether they win or lose, their teammate might move up a level. So we want to create in a practice setting a competitive environment to make sure that they're training harder, they're enjoying practice, they're having fun with their teammates, and they're competing as a team and really learning the principles of teamwork within a practice setting. So I could talk I give presentations just on that, so I'll stop there. But I would say one key component of my coaching philosophy is adding competition into everything that we do.
I love that. That's words to live by. That's good life advice too.
Oh, yeah.
Whose vote of confidence was it toughest to secure? Would you say other coaches on the staff, players, or even the media?
Toughest, I would say other coaches. Toughest. It's tough all around, but I would say it's funny how people think, oh, the players, and especially, Latin American players, they're like, oh, well, what do the Latin players think of you? And I just, to address that just quickly, is I always say, yes, Latin America has a certain culture and machismo, and there's not too many women at the top level of sports. There's just not a lot of women, even female athletes, that they might see in the Dominican Republic growing up. So it is a little bit tough at the beginning, but the most important person in their life, as you ladies know, is usually their mother or their grandmother. And so if you can establish that relationship over time, they really start to see you as somebody who cares about them and a nurturing person. Even as a strength coach, when I'm making them run a lot or do something in authoritative positions. So the players are really easy with time. Very quickly, they find out, what I'm about and what I'm able to offer them. I would say colleagues have been the tougher sell. There's a lot of, when I first come to an organization when I first got in the game, they were like, oh, you're so cute, welcome. And then once I established myself as a person who was very serious about my craft and somebody who wanted to move up and somebody who threatened them, that became a really tough go at points. Obviously, I've had a lot of allies and supporters, but I would say that would be the toughest sell. And then also it's the more forward-facing thing for me personally, because I'm working with these people every day and need them to be supportive of me. And so that's really the tougher sell. The players are I would say, the easier part.
It's interesting that you mentioned the idea about the mom and how moms are so important. There's been so many players that I've interviewed through the course of my career who've said, their mom was the most influential person in their career. Their moms were the ones that were out there throwing catch with them at many points in their lives. So I think that, that makes perfect sense as to why players would be easier to gravitate and accept you as their hitting coach, as their coach, as their mentor, as whomever. But speaking of change, you posted about that in a recent post, how people don't accept change. They don't like to. It's human nature. But how do you get these guys to buy it?
I think that, and I just, for people listening who may not have not seen that post, I kind of posted a funny post about, like, I don't even like change. I said I went to the grocery store and they changed the grocery store layout and I got pissed off. And it's like, my iPhone updated the other day and I was mad about it. I'm like, Siri, what are you saying to me? Like, what's going on here? So it's funny how then I walk in with a freaking pinstripe uniform on and just expect everyone to just instantaneously adjust and be happy that I'm there. And it's just unrealistic. So the way that I would say, the key point of getting someone to like a change is it works. I like it. Within a couple of days of an iPhone update, you go, oh, wow, that's actually more convenient. Thanks, Apple. So it's just really making them understand the value. And for me personally, that comes in my actions. Am I a good hitting coach? Can I give them valuable information? Can I relate to them? Can I listen to their wants and needs? All those things that any coach has to overcome. It's just with me, it's just very visually obvious that I'm different. So that might take a little bit longer, but I also said in that post, I don't mind that. I love that I have to earn it because, let's say I was a coach that played in the big leagues for 10 years and I just walk in the room and everyone gives me respect. I actually don't like that. I see it happen and I go, wow, they don't even know if that guy knows what he's talking about and they're listening to him, so I'd rather have to earn it. And that's okay. It's not always fun in the moment, but it's always more rewarding when I earn somebody's trust and respect than if it's just given to me.
Wow. I mean, I'm just thinking of your day to day and what that's like from the moment you walk into the facility to when you're there in the dugout, on the field during BP. You are surrounded by men constantly, I would imagine. How do you retain a sense of power, a sense of authority to be able to do your job in such a male-dominated, for lack of a better word, field?
I mean, the true root of that is just how I was raised. I never was told that I couldn't do it. And I've always been this person. It's just now the whole world's seeing it manifest into this way. But I always, jumped in with the boys when I was younger. I said that when I was 10 years old, I said I wanted to be the first ever female kicker in the NFL. I don't know where I got that from, but it's literally been me since I was born. And, I just it never even occurred to me that I wouldn't be able to do it. And that's a credit to my parents. Really, I didn't even understand what was happening when I was being discriminated against. I was so naive to that would even be a thing. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, because I applied for jobs just not even thinking that my gender would be an issue, when most women don't even apply for the jobs because they just already have it in their mind that they wouldn't be accepted. So my parents raised me not to do, not the soft and dreamy, oh, honey, you can do whatever you want. But it was more so, hey, you can do whatever you want if you work for it. And that was the constant message in our home. And so they never really even told me that I couldn't do something. They just let me figure it out for myself if I wasn't capable, but they never stopped me from doing it. So, I mean, I would say like that permeates into every bit of what I do now, where I walk into the room and I don't even think that they'll disrespect me. I assume that they will give me respect, which allows me to speak with more confidence, which then this is a whole circle, right? It allows me to speak with more confidence. So then they do respect me more because they go, wow, that woman can really command a room. She has a presence. She speaks confidently. She looks me in the eye. And so then I do get more respect because I don't even think that they're not respecting me. I'm shocked when I get a weird conversation or I hear behind my back that somebody says something. I'm like, wow, really? Why would they disrespect me? I'm still have this little bit of naivete that allows me to walk around confidently, which then breeds respect. So I have to give it to mom and dad.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what the experience was like working with somebody like Manny Ramirez? And you and I had talked about this before off camera, and just the importance of Manny, not so much him validating you, right, as a woman in baseball, but Manny was with you up and down everywhere in Australia. You guys were seen everywhere together, you working with him. So that visual, what that visual does to men and young boys when they see that, can you describe to me what that feels like?
Oh, Manny, he's he is the most incredible human being. I mean, really, like everything you see with Manny being Manny, it's like it couldn't be more accurate, you know, and he's so humble. I mean, to the point where, as you know, like he doesn't want to do press. He's very shy about it, even though you see him and he's a goofball and he's really personable. But when it comes down to like jumping on a camera or something, he's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. They won't like me. And I'm like, Manny, they are craving this, you know? So he's just an incredible person. And I think it speaks to who he is and why he was so good. I mean, our first conversation ever, the owner reached out to me and said, hey, Manny wants to talk to you. And I thought, me? I was like, oh, he wants to talk. Okay, fine. I thought he was going to tell me like, hey, this is how I do stuff, you know? And we get on the phone and he goes, kind of just a little bit of chit chat. And he was like, hey, so, you know, I really want to talk to you about my swing. And I was like, you want to talk to me about your swing? Like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to send you some videos, what I'm looking at. And it's just who he is. Like, he doesn't care. If you can help him, if you have something that he might be able to take even one word that you say, he'll listen to you. And it doesn't mean that he's going to bend over backwards to please you. It's just like he wants information from every source. And it wasn't just me. It was the other coaches there. It was other players in Australia. What did you see there? What do you got in this picture? And he is a knowledge seeker to the max. And because I think he was so open-minded, he would tell me stories about being coached by different coaches over the years and adjusting and getting information. He'd go, you know, I'd ask the rookie what he thinks about this pitcher. Maybe he has a good perspective. So it's really his mindset. And it just speaks to probably why he was so good back in the day, because he was able to just get information and not have an ego about it. And it's still that way to this day. And I'm so fortunate that I got to see him. And, you know, he's already talking about going back next year. So hopefully we'll actually get a full season in next year if COVID calms down.
Oh, God willing. Crossing the fingers. From your experience, is the league ready, in your opinion, to turn the corner when it comes to accepting that women can excel in these coaching, in these management roles? And what has been the pushback, if anything, either personally or from anything that you've observed? I mean, are we there yet, basically?
It's so hard, you know. It's like in some moments I go, have we made any progress, you know, with the Mets, Jared Porter this year? And you kind of, some days you go, God, have we gotten anywhere, you know? And then some days I go, look, like I was hired full-time into baseball in 2014 and nothing happened, right? I was just on film for Good Morning America the other day. I was hired at full-time in 2014. I was probably literally one of maybe 2 or 3 women total in all of player development. And I didn't even have an Instagram, right? Like nobody called me for an interview. Literally, I was in Major League spring training. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I was just like, I had picked up the cones after stretch. And Yadier Molina's there and Wainwright's there. And I'm like working with all these guys. And a local Florida station literally tapped me on the shoulder and they were like, excuse me, do you work for the Cardinals like full time? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, are you the only woman? And I was like, yes. And he was like, can I do an interview with you? That was the extent of the media. That was like a local Florida news station. And now we're seeing so much visibility for women, so many opportunities. Social media has changed everything around that. And it's changed massively, rapidly. The fact that I'm even on a call like this right now and that there's enough women for you guys to reach out to multiple women for these interviews. So there's points where I say, no, we're not ready. No, the league isn't ready. We have so much work to do. And there's moments where I say, oh my God, if I think back to the beginning of my career, I mean, I went from being discriminated against to now people want to interview my Good Morning America. Like we're celebrating women so much that it's come to that. And so the answer, I mean, that was a really horrible answer to your question, but the answer is I don't know. I mean, yes, in some ways, yes. In some ways, we have a lot of work to do.
Now, because of all of that work that still has to be done, what advice do you give women trying to break into this industry and into your field in particular?
The first thing definitely is don't wish for an easy path. You know, if you have to work harder, if you are disrespected, and I know those are hard things to talk about, and even me, you know, I say now, I'm glad I was discriminated against because I had to work twice as hard. You know, for example, I wanted to learn Spanish. It was on my heart to do that. But I also thought in my head, like, okay, if I learn Spanish, that's another feather in my cap. That's another thing that makes me more qualified. And it just pushed me. I wanted to do it anyway, but it gave me that extra push knowing that I was going to have a harder road as a woman. And now I'm so glad because I was so much more prepared than my peers. And still, you know, 10 years later, I'm still seeing things where I'm like, wow, I am so much more prepared for you than you are. And it's because I had a harder road, because I had to do more internships. So don't wish for the easy path. It's an honor to have to earn your respect, and it's a privilege to be an underdog. It's an advantage. So just remember, even in those hard moments, if somebody is rude to you or even discriminates against you, you should send them a thank you card, you know, because it's only going to make you better.
Have you had a chance to reach out to any of the other women who are in the industry? Bianca Smith, who was just hired by the Red Sox, any of them?
Yeah, I've connected with all of them, some more than others. Rachel Folden, I talk quite a bit. I've connected with Alyssa. I've connected with Bianca several times since she was hired, and just I think it's great for all of us to just have little touch points, even if it's a text or a hey, how are you doing? And definitely I've checked in on Bianca several times because it's again, now it's like I'm thankful that when I first got in, there was no social media and I could just make, you know, my mistakes quietly and not have all kinds of eyes on me. But now it's a whole different game. So just reaching out to her and going, hey, are you okay? You know, she has an agent, for God's sake, for all the requests that she's getting.
Yep.
For
Lonnie,
me,
what's up, Lonnie? That's right.
Yeah, this is her first year and she's getting all of these eyes on her, whereas my first year I got the luxury of not having that. So yeah, just we've all connected in one way or another.
Fantastic. I love that you're in this very exclusive club, and I look forward to reading the book. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
General manager. I hope it happens within 10 years, but obviously that's a role that is coveted by many. So general managers in my future. I don't know when, where, how, or whatever. Secretly hoping it's with the Padres so I can live in San Diego. And I'm not sure where or when, but that's absolutely something that I'm striving for. I have plenty to learn as a hitting coach, but that's definitely the North Star.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I hope that one day I can personally welcome you to San Diego in that role. That would be just incredible.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking with us. We appreciate your time. Let everyone know where they can find you and where they can follow all of your adventures.
Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So yeah, I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool mom. So if you can spell my name, I'm on just about anywhere. I have a website, rachelbalkovec.com, and you can go anywhere from there. But I try to be available for as many people as possible. And, you know, the young people are on TikTok, so I'm even there now. So if you can spell Balkovec, you can find me.
And your videos are fire, by the way. They're awesome. I thoroughly enjoy them.
I'm trying. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, ladies.
When I see a little girl with a glove, with a bat, like I see myself like 15 or 20 years ago. And, you know, back then I would love someone to come and motivate me and encourage me. So in the DR, for example, sometimes I go to remote places, giving clinics, talking to the girls.